Joe and Sabrina have Fox 40 Live in the 9 o'clock hour. What's happening now?
We got you, Paul. The Dow has dropped over 400 points today since Wednesday's opening bell, wiping out the gains made on Tuesday. As you can see, we're down 374 at 10,866. Alyssa.
Live here in East Sacramento at the scene where police were investigating what they were calling a suspicious death that now has been ruled a suicide. We'll go into some details about why they thought this was one thing, not the other, and why we're still here. Coming up.
Sean.
And a bullet train system in California has been approved by taxpayers, but the cost is getting out of control. At one point, they said it's going to be $60 billion. Now it's going up even more. How much more? We're going to tell you coming up in a few minutes.
And we've got our lone kayaker Cam out for you this morning. What a lovely day to be out on the water, self-propelled. Get you updated on these numbers. It will be a little warm for that guy and everybody else today. I'll show you how much coming up.
This is Fox 40 Live.
And happy Wednesday, everyone. It's coming up on 9 o'clock.
Yes.
We are halfway through.
There.
Halfway. We can get through this. Friday, it's just a nice little coast.
We can do it, Sabrina.
That's right. So coming up this hour, we got a bunch of details on that nationwide manhunt for those three siblings who robbed a bank and are on the run.
Yep.
So.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Also, back to school shopping tips to help you out. It's that time of year. The kids are going back. My daughter's going back tomorrow. I know a lot of kids are going back in the next couple weeks, so stick around for those tips. And also, Chef Russell Michel gives us a low-carb, low-sodium meal to make it home. Now to the top 10 stories you need before you head out the door this morning. Story number 1. We're following a developing story out of East Sacramento. We now have new information on what investigators are calling a suspicious death. Let's go live to Alyssa Harrington at T and 53rd with the very latest. Alyssa.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Well, a call was made at 1:30 this morning for a man who was found dead in the backyard of this house at 53rd and T. Investigators have been out here all morning and just ruled that this was a suicide. Now, earlier this morning, they were calling this a suspicious death. They were questioning the man's girlfriend, and they told us that there were inconsistencies. But again, they are saying this was a suicide, and they say what they came to the conclusion is that there was an argument between the man and his girlfriend, and the reason there were inconsistencies is because she allegedly hid a suicide note, and that some neighbors may have heard multiple gunshots rather than the just once. They felt it was important to look into all of that information. And, you know, we spoke with Sergeant Norm Leong earlier this morning about when it is the appropriate time to tell the media when you're still investigating if something could be a suicide. And here's what he told us.
Local media usually does not cover suicides, and certainly, unfortunately, we have more suicides than we want to handle. But there are some things that obviously we wouldn't have called out detectives if we didn't want to look into a little further.
Yeah, so the reason we're still here is because we just want viewers to know that this was a suicide, not anything else. You know, all morning we had been calling this a suspicious death. It's all getting wrapped up at this point. Police about to clear the scene. And again, we're here on 53rd and T in East Sacramento. Back to you guys.
Alyssa, thank you. Story number 2, after a huge market rally on Wall Street Tuesday, Congress now turns its attention to its next big battle, fixing the economy. Douglas Zader explains how lawmakers hope to tackle the national debt.
Sure, the numbers yesterday were encouraging. The Dow snapped back and recouped much of Monday's huge losses. But it's this number that remains so troubling. A national debt tab that has slowed down a little but shows no sign of stopping, ever. And after the U.S. credit rating took a beating in recent days, is it time for Congress to end its summer recess that began last week?
At that time, we were told by a lot of the leaders in Washington that don't worry, we passed the deal, it's going to be good enough, nothing's going to happen, and a lot in the world has changed in 1 week.
Congressional leaders of both parties still have to assemble a super committee of sorts to work out another round of debt slowdowns. We now know who 3 of the Democrats will be on the Senate side, Max Baucus, Patty Murray, and John Kerry. But they will square off with Republicans over some familiar questions, raise taxes or cut spending. And some who watch the markets closely expect to see a little of both.
I'm not sure that there is an answer that's going to make everyone happy. The fact is that we are, as Americans, going to have to live through a period of difficulty and experience a fair amount of pain here if we're going to put our country back on the right path in the long run.
Because in the long run, these numbers just can't keep growing.
Well, ratings agencies want to see some sign that Washington is really ready to do something, almost anything about the national debt. So let's check in now with Wall Street to see if we can keep yesterday's rally going. Yeah, no. No, that's not going to happen today. We are down 381 points. We've dipped as low as more than 400 points and sitting at 10,857. Well, here's a look at the roller coaster ride of trading we've been on this last week. Yesterday, the Dow gained 430 points and closed at 11,239. The jump was partially due to the Federal Reserve's decision to keep interest rates low for the next few years. On Monday, though, the Dow lost 634 points, we all remember that, to close at 10,809. That was the first day of trading since the S&P's downgraded America's credit rating. And on Friday, the Dow gained 61 points, and we earned that day at 11,444. And last Thursday, we lost 512 points, ending at 11,383. And a week ago, we were sitting at 11,396 after gaining 30 points.
Story number 3, NATO announced just this morning that coalition forces have killed the insurgents involved with the recent downing of the helicopter, which killed 22 Navy SEALs. President Obama paid his respects as the bodies of the American servicemen arrived at Dover Air Force Base on Tuesday. Meanwhile, investigators are looking into the exact cause of the crash, and that's still ongoing. U.S. military officials say the helicopter was hit as it was trying to land, but they still cannot confirm that this was the cause of the crash. Number 4, it was a calmer night in London because there were so many police officers on the streets, but the riots continue to spread to other areas of England. Well, last night, 16,000 police officers patrolled the streets. Nearly 800 people have been arrested. Prime Minister David Cameron says those responsible for breaking the law will be charged.
Today, major police operations are underway, as I speak, to arrest the criminals who were not picked up last night, but who were picked up on closed-circuit television cameras. Picture by picture, these criminals are being identified and arrested, and we will not let any phony concerns about human rights get in the way of the publication of these pictures and the arrest of these individuals. As I speak, sentences are also being passed. Courts sat through the night last night and will do again tonight. It is for the courts to sentence, but I would expect anyone convicted of violent disorder will be sent to prison. We needed a fight back, and a fight back is underway.
All right, well, Cameron said police have been authorized to use whatever means necessary to combat despicable violence. The riots now prompted the U.S. to issue a travel warning for Americans as well. Story number 5, an American tourist is missing in Aruba, and we're not talking about Natalie Holloway. It happened again. Robin Gardner of Maryland disappeared in Aruba last week. Gardner disappeared from the same resort town as Holloway did years ago. Police say Gardner was there with a friend who's being questioned. That friend told police she never returned after a snorkeling trip. Well, Gardner's boyfriend says he doesn't believe that story.
Story number 6, back here at home, a lot happened in our local city council meetings last night. So let's start with Stockton, where the city wanted to give its police chief a $25,000 raise, but the people of Stockton wouldn't stand for it.
This is political corruption. This is pimping at its finest.
That's just one person's view, but there were plenty of other people who chimed in. Take a listen.
It's hard to believe that each and every one of you here can sit here and think that it's okay to give one member of an organization a raise while asking everyone else to take a pay cut.
It has become an embarrassment to say that I am from Stockton. People across the country ask if you are afraid to live in the 10th most violent city and the most miserable city according to Forbes magazine.
The $25,000 pay raise would have ensured that Chief Blair Erling would not retire, and it would protect his pension. But in the end, the council went with the people and voted no on the raise. Story number 7, that was a different case, though. In Sacramento, the city council approved what some call an over-the-top pay package for new city manager John Shirey. It includes a base salary of $258,000 and add in all those benefits, and the total tops $300,000. The 3-year deal includes severance pay, a car allowance, and generous retirement contributions. Story 8, in Modesto, a vote on a new city slogan was pulled from the city council's agenda. Modesto faces negative publicity, and they want a new slogan to battle that bad image. The slogan item, though, was pulled off the agenda because no one liked the new one. So right now, the Modesto Arch reads, Water, Wealth, Contentment, Health. That proposed slogan, rather the new proposed slogan, was family owned and operated. And the last time the people in Modesto voted on a slogan for their city was 100 years ago, and the winner was nobody's got Modesto's goat.
It's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Story number 9, the school year could be cut short for California students, all because of the state's budget problems. Sales taxes and corporate receipts fell short of original projections, which means the state won't get the money it expected. We're about 10% short. As a result, schools could cut 7 days from the calendar, bringing the total to 168. 2 years ago, the minimum was 180 days.
They need to have that time in school, and they need to be learning, and the class sizes need to not grow any larger, because that one-on-one time is important.
The true deadline is December. That's when the state will look again at its income and decide whether programs need to be cut. This is the topic of today's Viewer's Voice question. We want to know how you feel about making school year shorter. Click to like Fox 40 Live on Facebook, or you can call or text us 916-572-4369. And story number 10, the 2 men accused of beating Giants fan Brian Stowe will be arraigned this morning. Marvin Norwood and Luis Sanchez are each charged with mayhem, assault, and battery. Sanchez faces 2 additional charges for allegedly attacking others the same day. The 2 were arrested last month and are being held on a $500,000 bail each. Brian Stowe remains hospitalized in serious condition. Let's check in with Darren.
Well, we're out enjoying the view today, Joe. This is Nimbus Flats out on Lake Natoma. And we're just loving this fact. We've had a kayaker a little earlier. Now we've got somebody swimming by there. What a great way to get out. And a good time of day to do this, by the way. It's going to be noticeably warmer in a couple of hours. I've got us going back into the mid-90s today for a daytime high. Let me get you caught up on some of these numbers across the region. In fact, we were just taking a look at Lake Natoma and Nimbus Flats sitting right in along here, just north of of Highway 50. And if we take a look at some of the communities up here, we've got numbers sitting in the upper 60s right now. So we're already working our way up to that 70-degree mark in a hurry. This is like a 10-degree jump that we've already seen just in the last hour and a half. And if I bring all of these temperatures forward into the afternoon and get us caught up to about late in the 4 o'clock hour, it's low 90s there. It's mid-90s, though, as you work your way closer to the center of Sacramento. In fact, I've got 94 as our forecast for today. I'll show you the 7-day forecast because there is a break to this. We're going to cool things back down again going for the second half of the 7-day. In fact, one of these days doesn't get out of the 80s. That's coming up, guys.
We'll see you in a few, Darren. All right, the votes have been counted in Wisconsin, and 4 Republican lawmakers are grateful to have their jobs this morning. The full result of yesterday's recall elections coming up in our National Connection.
Plus,
these individuals are considered armed, dangerous.
A nationwide manhunt is underway for these 3 siblings, why the FBI is looking for them and where they were last seen when we come back. And taking another look at the big board, again, we are down, 348 points down and 10,890.
Yeah. Welcome to the Fox 40 studios. Kind of from an above look, you see the guys on the ground taking care of the cameras.
Bird's eye view.
And there's you and I, Sabrina. Let's get going with the news. Topping our National Connection, an FBI manhunt is underway for 3 siblings on the run and suspected of crimes in 2 states. The fugitives, known as the Doherty gang, are suspected of opening fire on a police car in Florida and holding up a bank in Georgia. Here are the pictures. Take a look. Ryan Dillon and Lee Grace. The FBI says there's been sightings in Colorado.
These individuals are considered armed, dangerous, and we believe they pose a very imminent threat to the community that we serve and to law enforcement in general. We don't know why they've come to our state, and we don't know where they might be headed or what direction they're headed in.
Well, listen to this. Police say the brothers lived on a property in Florida with a sophisticated underground bunker. It's made of semi-trailers and has electricity and water. Police believe it was used as a marijuana grow house. 4 of 6 Republican state senators in Wisconsin will keep their jobs. They were in jeopardy in recall elections that were the result of last winter's bitter battles over union rights. Ainsley Earhart has the results.
Republicans remain in control of the Wisconsin State Senate. Voters have chosen to keep the GOP in power, as only 2 Democrats earned victories in Tuesday's recall elections. Incumbent Republican State Senator Luther Olson overcame his challenger, Democrat Fred Clark.
We are on the path to recovery. We are moving the state forward, and we did what the folks of the 14th Senate District wanted us to do. Thank you.
Clark says despite the results, voters should be proud of their efforts.
We should be proud that we had recall elections. that this is one strong piece of evidence that our democracy still works.
Other GOPers holding onto their seats are Senator Alberta Darling, Sheila Harsdorf, and Rob Coles. On the Democratic side, Jennifer Schilling defeated Senator Dan Kapanke, and Jessica King now replaces Republican Senator Randy Hopper.
This is a campaign about the people, for the people, run by the people.
Many political analysts suggested that if the Democrats had come out ahead, it could be seen as a rejection of Governor Scott Walker's budget-cutting agenda. But now with the GOP lawmakers holding on, many say it can be viewed as a stamp of approval for Governor Walker's ideas.
Boy, they're up against it in that state. Two Democratic incumbents face recalls next week, but even if Democrats win those, they will still be in the minority.
Well, water troubles continue in Texas this morning. Take a look at these iReport photos taken by Ralph DiStefano in San Antonio. The pictures show extremely low water levels at this lake thanks to heat and dry weather throughout the state. And the same weather problems, though, are not being felt in Florida. Check this out. So this guy in Port Richey, Florida, took a ride on his inflatable raft after some heavy rain caused some minor, quote-unquote, street flooding. He hopped out, though, after a few seconds, perhaps not wanting his lazy trip to end at a busy intersection. Hail bigger than golf balls rained down on parts of Wyoming and Nebraska on Tuesday. The extreme weather prompted severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings across both states. Well, the ice balls, though, didn't stop drivers from hitting the roads, but they'll have the damage to their cars to prove it.
All right, let's check in with Darren, and fortunately, we're not up against that.
No, nothing like that.
It's almost like we've got nothing going on here. I mean, you step outside, plenty of sunshine, the wind's not even going through the trees out here, and our temperatures are warming up to the point where we're getting to where we should have been all along. Even maybe a little warmer, I'll tell you the truth, 92 would be normal. We're going up to about 94, 95 in some spots today. So we've kind of been left alone. We're not getting the influence from the Delta. We're not getting hit with the real nasty heat that's coming in from the other way either. So there's like nothing. 66 in Sacramento, 73 in Modesto. Look at the wind speeds. Early in the morning, these were almost all registering calm right down the board. That's how you know that you're in for a little bit of warming. Here's what it looks like as we move through the forecast. Numbers are going to continue to stay at this rate as long as we've got this pattern. We've got the cool air staying too far to the north, and then we've got that nice center of high pressure that's kind of building in through the deserts. We're actually going to feel that now a little more than we have over the last few days, and that's why we've got numbers in the mid-90s. But once we get to the weekend, guys, we're going to go back the other way, meaning we're going to start pulling in more of the influence from the water through the delta. We're going to cool down. I've got a 7-day forecast with a number that doesn't get out of the 80s on it the whole way through. I'll show that to you coming up in just a few minutes, guys. I'll see you then.
Thank you, Darren. August means it's time to go back to school shopping. Coming up in about 4 minutes, we share some tips that will help you cut back the cost of supplies.
Back to school. And the Fox40 rewards code for this half hour is overhead projector. This theme, of course, is Back to School Blues. Enter it at fox40rewards.com.
And don't forget about the Dance of Fire calendar. Vote for your favorite Sacramento firefighter and ballet dancer for a calendar. It's $2 to vote. Just log on to fox40.com and scroll down to the contest icon. Under features on the right side of the homepage, voting ends August 22nd.
There's a feast upon my table, and I got polish on my boots, and I remember what my mama said. She said, son.
It's exactly 10 o'clock, and this is Curry's Digital. Just up
the sights and sounds from London and some of those neighboring communities. What a mess for those folks. And you know what? It's been a real problem. We've been seeing the pictures and the images. Let's take a look now, guys, and take a look and see what they're up against. This is from the Irish Times. Let's take this full so we can better understand it. This comes out of Ireland, and this is the Irish Times. And as you can see the pictures and the images. Violence moves north as police lock down London. You can see one of the canine dogs there. There's a car on fire. And this is the one that got me this morning. This is the one called The Guardian out of London. And it talks about the bobbies normally, they don't carry guns and they don't have ammunition and bullets and that sort of thing. Plastic bullets authorized on the British mainland. 16,000 officers flood the capital. Authorities change tactics, and trouble flares up again in Manchester and Birmingham. And this article down here, it's written by a columnist, obviously, and her name name is Heather Adley, and it says you have a generation of kids who don't respect their parents or police. And so she's kind of breaking down what they're up against in that city and how police are trying to fight what's going on. But also she's saying, you know what? Parents and families have to be responsible as well. So just kind of a different perspective on what's going on in London. Sabrina?
Thanks, Joe. Well, the new school year is just around the corner, which means it's time to go to do some back-to-school shopping. And to save you as much money as possible, well, here are some tips that you can use to cut costs and get supplies, thanks to Yahoo.com's Financially Fit. First, shop solo. According to the NRF, most parents say their kids influence their back-to-school purchases. So make a list at home, then hit the stores without the kids in tow. Second, shop online. The internet is full of deals this season, and you might find better deals online than in the actual stores. Another tip? Go generic. Generic or store brand products can cost about 30% less than their name brand rivals. And lastly, decorate your own gear. Instead of buying cheap backpacks with cartoons on them, you can buy a high quality backpack that'll last at least 2 school years. And then your kids can personalize the neutrally colored bags with puffy paint, stickers, or even iron-on patches.
Well, here's the deal. Yesterday, Sabrina, my daughter is going to be 16 in a couple weeks, so she's going to be going for her license. So Dad took her out driving yesterday.
All right.
But then Mom came home, and Mom took her shopping. So Mom, fortunately, took care of that.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about that.
I didn't have to worry about it. I was so happy. All right. Are you sick of hearing about the bickering between lawmakers in Washington and the upset? Are you upset about the nation's credit downgrade?
Well, one Missouri mom is, so she delivered a special message to Congress and Wall Street in an unusual way. Casey Joyce shows us how she got their attention.
It's actually crazy, and
no, but in a great way. You know what? When I think there's something important, I get out and do something about it.
Even Lucy Noby's daughters knew that this was important.
She was really angry. She told me that. She was like, stop!
Since I do work in the securities business, I know what it means to be downgraded. I was at a party Saturday night, and I was ranting and raving about the downgrade, woke up in the middle of the night saying, I'm going to hire an airplane and fly a banner around Washington, D.C.
Noby went online and found a company called flysigns.com to design a banner for her. It read, quote, thanks for the downgrade.
You should all be fired. I thought that is something that I could do that probably wouldn't cost $1 million, and maybe somebody would listen to me.
But there was one little hiccup. Washington, D.C. is a no-fly zone.
It was the best other option we had. Excellent plan B, for sure. Hit Wall Street and downtown New York and Statue of Liberty, New York Harbor.
So Tuesday morning, the plane and the banner took flight around lower Manhattan, generating a lot of buzz online and in the headlines. Her daughters, however, didn't quite know what to think.
No, for heaven's sake, Mom!
But Lucy was beaming, and in the end, so were her girls.
It feels pretty good. Just because a lot of times I think those things, but I don't do it. And this time I actually did it.
She is very different from other moms, and I'm really proud of her because she does stand up for what she really wants, and I'm really glad that I have a mom like that.
That's sweet. Well, the banner, yeah.
The best reaction, I think, was, Mom!
Mom, come on! That's great. That's just classic.
Yep.
So in case you're wondering, the banner cost Lucy about $900, but flysigns.com gave her a discount because they actually really like what she was doing.
Lucy says she hopes lawmakers will see her message and decide to cut their summer break short to get back to Washington and fix that budget. All right, well, NATO says the insurgents who gunned down a helicopter in Afghanistan have now been killed. That doesn't change the fact that the Navy SEALs lost 22 of its best men. How the Navy is dealing with a major blow when we come back.
Sean.
A bullet train project in California has been approved by voters, but the cost just keeps going up. Why is it doing that? We're going to fill in the blanks for you coming up right after this short break.
And don't forget to send us your thoughts on today's Viewer's Voice question. We would like to know, what are your thoughts on making the school year shorter? You can leave us a comment on our Fox 40 Live Facebook page. Call or text us 916-572-4369.
Liked yesterday so much, we're going to repeat it again today. Checking out the gorgeous view for you out along Lake Natoma. A lot of kayakers out there now. Show you how warm we're going to be for them and for you. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
This
is Fox 40 Live.
It is 9:30, and in case you missed them at the top of the hour, here are some of the stories we've been covering throughout the morning. On the top, investigators have now ruled what was thought to be a suspicious death as a suicide. Homicide investigators were on scene where the body was found in an East Sacramento backyard all morning. In the middle, another downward spiral on Wall Street. The Dow dropped more than 300 points in the first hour of trading, this after it closed up 430 points yesterday. And on the bottom, NATO announced that the insurgents who shot down a U.S. helicopter were killed in a coalition airstrike. The original crash killed 38 people, including 22 Navy SEALs. Back here at home, the price tag for California's high-speed bullet train is going up. Sean Bennett is live at a would-be stop in Modesto for more on just how much money it'll take to launch that high-speed train. Sean.
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe, because voters have approved this, and they said that it was going to cost about $60 billion. But now we're hearing word that it's going to cost somewhere around the $80 billion mark to get this bullet train going through the state of California. Project officials say they are going to break ground next year, which will cost billions, and say they will find the rest of the money later. Well, when California voters approved the project in 2008, the state said it would cost $33 billion, but the cost soared to $43 billion just a year later. Now the state has only a fourth of the money needed to fund the entire line. The updated cost for the entire railroad won't be released until October, but planners say the entire project will get more expensive as time goes on. And of course, we know how bad the state of California is financially right now. It took them so long to pass the budget. They're making cuts everywhere. So it's kind of like you ask yourself, well, where is the money going to come from to fund this line here, to put it throughout the state of California? It's just one of these things that we're going to see the money continuing to grow billions and billions beyond the original budget that they laid out when they first decided to blueprint this whole situation.
Wait and see. Sean, thank you so much. And moving right along now, we have some breaking news. The three siblings that were wanted for an alleged armed bank robbery in Georgia and the attempted murder of a Florida police officer have been apprehended in Colorado. Now, authorities said that this happened today. Again, they've been looking for these three for quite some time now after robbing a bank and also just being on the lam for quite some time. If we have any more information, we, of course, will bring it to you. And new this morning, one person is in the hospital following an accident overnight. It happened around 2 o'clock along Highway 50 near the Watt Avenue exit. According to the California Highway Patrol, the driver of the Honda was speeding when it rear-ended a semi and caught fire. The driver of the semi pulled the driver of the Honda to safety. The Honda driver went to the hospital with minor injuries. Very lucky. Also new this morning, firefighters are calling a small debris fire suspicious. The fire broke out around 1:30 near Glenbrook Park in Sacramento. Crews say a pile of yard waste was set on fire. Firefighters were quickly able to put the flames out, and no one was hurt. And in Carmichael, an empty house burned overnight. The house is currently for sale, and no one is living in it. Firefighters say the fire started in the kitchen, then spread to the attic. They're trying to figure out what caused it. The fire itself did about $50,000 worth of damage.
3 suspected bank robbers remain on the loose this morning. Sacramento police say they hit 2 banks, both on Freeport Boulevard, within a month of each other. The suspects were dressed in jeans and a shirt or Giants jersey and a baseball cap. A suspected burglar is in the hospital this morning after police used a canine to catch him. About 9:30 last night, a woman told police she heard someone break into her home on Silver Eagle Road in Sacramento. She grabbed her phone to dial 911 and ran out. Well, officers arrived and they surrounded the house. They saw the suspect briefly, but then he went back inside the house, so the cops sent in the dogs after him. The suspect was found in the attic and had to be taken to the hospital with bite wounds and cuts from broken glass. Officers say he will be booked into jail as soon as he's out of the hospital. California Highway Patrol now thinks one driver is to blame for that deadly 6-car crash on I-5 in Woodland. Preliminary report points to 38-year-old Carlos Hernandez of Elk Grove. The report says Hernandez, who was behind the wheel of a big truck, was driving too fast on a construction zone. 3 people died, 7 hurt, including a woman who talked to us by phone from the UC Davis Med Center.
It was just awful. There was fire everywhere. It wasn't a nice scene. The next thing I knew, we were flying everywhere and engulfed in flames. So I think the semi-trailer hit us.
Boy, she's so lucky. Guadalupe Carrera she has 2nd-degree burns on her arm and leg, and the CHP says it's too early to say if charges are going to be filed against that truck driver.
Time now is 9:34. Kids in California could soon enjoy a longer summer. Thanks to the state's budget woes, schools could cut 7 days from the calendar, bringing the total to 168. 2 years ago, the minimum was 180 days. And, of course, this is the topic of today's Viewer's Voice question. We want to know, how do you feel about cutting the school year short in order to save money? You can leave us a comment on our Fox 40 Live Facebook page, or you can call or text the number on your screen, 916-572-4369. We'll be reading your responses in about 10 minutes.
All right, looking forward to that. The bodies of 30 American troops are back on American soil. The victims of a helicopter shoot-down in Afghanistan over the weekend arrived at Dover Air Force Base on Tuesday.
It was the greatest loss of American lives in one incident since the start of the Afghan war. And as Brian Todd reports, the loss is taking a major toll on the U.S. military.
A devastating loss for families, friends, and teammates. The 22 SEALs killed in Afghanistan were part of a unit that's elite even among the SEALs themselves. It's officially known as the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. At various times, it's been called SEAL Team 6.
How tough is it going to be to fill the void of these 22 guys on SEAL Team 6?
Well, it's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt. I mean, just to be a U.S. Navy SEAL from the point you want to volunteer till you're in combat the first time is about 3.5 years.
And, says Ryan Zinke, at least another 2 years of training and deployments to be on SEAL Team 6. As a member of that team, Zinke tracked down war criminals in the Balkans in the 1990s. Zinke and other former SEALs tell us SEAL Team 6 members are taken from the ranks of other existing SEAL teams, and that half of the men who try out for the team wash out. These are commandos who routinely go on very precise capture or kill missions for high-value targets like Osama bin Laden.
How do they think on the battlefield that's different from other SEALs? What do they do that's different?
Well, a large part of it is you have to identify a threat, and oftentimes it's at a moment's notice. In an instant, you have to determine whether or not that individual is a threat or whether he's not. And if he is, you have to engage. These individuals can shoot exactly what they aim at. They make that judgment in an instant, and they're lethal at what they do.
According to former SEALs, there are about 200 members of SEAL Team 6. That means the helicopter crash in Afghanistan took away about 10% of the unit. I spoke with military analyst Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer about how the team in Afghanistan could be shored up.
Are they going to have to shuttle guys in from elsewhere, from other SEAL units?
There's one of two ways they'll do the replenishment. First off, they may have to degrade the mission in Iraq to bring people out of the existing mission there and move them over to Afghanistan. The problem with that, of course, is things in Iraq have not been as stable as people would like them to be. Therefore, you're degrading that mission. The more likely scenario is that they'll move one of the standby units, which are training up to go in, to move them in ahead of schedule.
And earlier this morning, we learned that coalition forces have killed the Taliban insurgents involved with the recent downing of CH-47 helicopter, which killed those 22 Navy SEALs.
All right, well, we begin our World Connection this morning with another look at the rioting in London. Boy, oh boy, is anybody else sick of these pictures? Boy, police are releasing these photos of who they say are the rioters. Almost 800 people have been arrested for violence in the streets since Saturday. Police are looking for more troublemakers and increase police force. Help keep the streets of London quiet on Tuesday night, but unrest spread to other cities like Manchester and Liverpool. Hundreds of students are under arrest in Chile after stores were looted and cars were burned during protest over funding for public education. Tens of thousands of young people demonstrated in Santiago and other cities. The protesters say the government doesn't spend enough on schools in poor neighborhoods. More than 20 police officers were injured in clashes with violent protesters. To China now, the country's first aircraft carrier hit the high seas for a test run this morning. Military sources expect the trip to be brief, with the unnamed carrier returning to Dalian for additional refits. The vessel was purchased from the Ukraine in the 1990s. China once renounced aircraft carriers as tools of imperialism. It recently began developing a blue water navy along with air power to back it up.
All right, time now is 9:39. You're always told not to look at the sun, but right now scientists are keeping a very close eye on it. When we come back, why the sun could interfere with your cell phone or even put your GPS on the fritz. Anna Lee.
Well, Facebook addicts, you might not like the sounds of this one, but one group is looking to kill out Facebook in less than 3 months.
Getting a little warmer today, going into the mid-90s, but there is relief. We're going back to the 80s in this 7-day, and that's coming up after this break. I'll have it for you in just a minute.
And we want to get your questions for our weekly Ask a Chef segment. Chef Russell is in the house now. We do it every Wednesday during Fox 40 Live at 9. Go to fox40.com/news/cooking. There's an entry form for questions, and you'll also find all the video clips from our cooking segments. Okay, are they indeed pedaling kayakers? Darren is actually looking it up as we speak, so hopefully that's Lake Natoma, and hopefully we'll have some answers for you. In the meantime, let's check in with Annalee. AP?
Good morning, you two. Well, some of you Facebookers might not like this, but Anonymous, the hacktivist group, is claiming that they're going to kill Facebook on November 5th, and this is why.
Facebook has been selling information to government agencies and giving clandestine access to information security firms so that they can spy on people from all around the world. Some of these so-called white-hot infosec firms are working for authoritarian governments, such as those of Egypt and Syria. Everything you do on Facebook stays on Facebook regardless of your privacy settings. And deleting your account is impossible. Even if you delete your account, all your personal info stays on Facebook and can be recovered at any time. Changing the privacy settings to make your Facebook account more private is also a delusion. Facebook knows more about you than your family.
Oh, how creepy is that possibly Facebook knows more than your family? Well, Anonymous just put that out yesterday. Like they said, everything you do stays on Facebook no matter what, and they're claiming Facebook has been selling user information to government agencies and giving it up to security firms so they can spy on people. Now, November 5th, which is their Operation Facebook Target Day, is also Guy Fawkes Day, which is a commemoration of the failed gunpowder plot. That's when Fawkes and his group put explosives under the British House of the Lords. Now, if you take a look at my computer, I want to read this as well. This is a tweet that was sent out. Facebook is being organized by some Anons. This does not necessarily mean that all of Anonymous agrees with it. So there are some people in that Anonymous group who are not wanting to take part in this whole takedown.
Thanks for the heads up, AP. Some good news in our dollars and cents this morning. Gas prices are going down. The California average has dropped 4 cents in the last week to $3.77, according to AAA. Here's a look at our local prices. Gas is cheapest in Modesto at $3.69 a gallon. Stockton, $3.72, and here in Sacramento, $3.74. I did spend $3.57 at Arco, though, so it's pretty cheap. A host of airline passenger protection rules set to kick in later this month. We'll have to wait. Airlines and travel agents say they need more time to implement the changes. The Department of Transportation agreed to delay a handful of changes until next year, including the requirement that airlines disclose the full cost of flights in online and print advertising. About half of the protections will still take effect August 23rd as planned. The U.S. economy isn't looking so good, according to a new report from the Federal Reserve. That's why the nation's central bank announced Tuesday that it'll keep interest rates at near zero levels until 2013. Lisa Sylvester has the details.
The economy has been sputtering along. Last quarter, U.S. economic growth was a measly 1.3%. The Federal Reserve acknowledged consumer spending is down. The housing sector still taking a beating, and things are not looking good on the job front. Investors have been looking to the Fed to work its magic and get the economy moving again. To that end, the Federal Reserve gave the markets a gift, pledging to keep interest rates near zero at least through mid-2013.
They're speaking directly to the markets. They're telling banks and bondholders and bond investors that they can count on ultra-low interest rates for at least 24 more months, which is a pretty major statement, I think.
That means low costs for Americans to borrow for a house or a car or to take out a college loan, at least for another couple of years. Until now, the Federal Reserve had only said it would keep interest rates low for, quote, an extended period without spelling out how long that was. But the central bank did not commit any new funds for bond purchases that would pump money back into the economy to kickstart growth, something investors had been hoping for. The Fed is trying to steer the economy away from dipping into a second recession. But some economists point out its tools are limited because interest rates are already very low.
The Fed just doesn't have that many bullets left in the holster. It can't lower interest rates very much. It could buy a lot more assets, but it's not clear that that would make much difference.
The Fed couldn't go any lower with interest rates, so it gave the next best thing, to keep it going longer.
Well, yesterday's announcement from the Fed prompted stocks to go up, but the same can't be said for today. Let's take a look as we speak. We're down 385 points at 10,854. Checking today's Viewer's Voice question. We want to know, what are your thoughts on making the school year shorter? You can leave us a comment on our Fox 40 Live Facebook page. Let's check in with Sabrina Rodriguez.
That's right. On Facebook, Barb is saying the schools need to cut the feel-good programs and actually teach the students basic math, English, science, history, just history as it really happened. Daniel says, I think that they should only do that to schools that they don't have very good ratings, or they should get rid of all those lazy teachers and employee teachers. That will actually work. Rebecca says, not a good idea. Kids need all the education they can get.
Thank you, everybody, for weighing in this morning. Experts are keeping an eye on the sun as strong solar storms could disrupt satellites and even electronic equipment here on Earth.
And that includes your cell phone service. This is NASA video of similar solar flares several months ago. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says solar winds appeared to die down on Monday, but a massive explosion Tuesday reignited worries of communication disturbances.
Experts say yesterday's flare could create auroras, which are bright and colorful light displays. Solar flares can disrupt plane electronics and GPS systems and phones and cars and power grids and military satellites, Darren.
You know, the sun goes through a cycle of about 7 to 11 years where a lot of this stuff will die down for about 7 to 11 years, and then you'll go through a phase for about 7 to 11 years where it will really start to fire up, and we're just finishing a quiet phase. So we'll probably hear a lot more about that stuff over the next few years, and I think technology is really adjusted, though, to be prepared to handle that stuff. We are taking a look live now. Nimbus Flats out on Lake Natoma, and those were pedaling kayakers. I can only verify for you from visual contact I had from this little monitor in front of me, somebody was pedaling a kayak. I looked it up online, too. I couldn't find much other than an infomercial with John Ratzenberger. You know who he is? Cliff from Cheers. Apparently he's pushing those now, so they exist. Taking a look at a weak storm coming into the Pacific Northwest. Too far north to really help us. This is why our temperatures are starting to go up. The storms are still there. They're just kind of acting normal now, and they're going farther north. But by early next week, we get right back into this wacky summer we've been having. The storms come farther south. Our temperatures start going back down. I've got a day that doesn't get out of the 80s coming up in a second here. I'll show it to you. In the meantime, we feel more of the influence from the desert southwest over the next few days. Not a lot of it, but just enough of it. That high starts to build in, and our temperatures start to climb a little too. And that's why we've got to have, well, temperatures in the mid-90s basically from here on, at least through Friday. But once we get to the weekend, and definitely by early next week, we're back down to below normal temperatures. And there's the 89. It doesn't show up till Tuesday, but we're getting there. Main thing to remember is don't expect any change between now and Saturday, and then once we finally get into the weekend, things will get back to what you might consider normal for us with this summer, low 90s. Only 3 days at 100 degrees or above this summer. This has been crazy.
It's been great there.
Yes, it has.
All right.
Yes, it has. And you can smell it now. Joe, what are we making?
Here's the deal. All right, normally Paul's in the kitchen with Chef Russell. It's me today. I get low-cal food, low sodium, but I'm sure it's outstanding because Chef Russell is going to make it rock. He always does. Fox 40 rewards code for this half hour is memorization. This week's theme, back-to-school blues. Yeah, all those memorization, the math tables. Oh, enter it at fox40rewards.com. Chef Russell Michelle, I heard low sodium, low cal, and I was like, yeah, but I know you're gonna rock it.
I got to tell you, Jason, you stumped me because I was trying to think, okay,
what do I want to show on the show, the segment, because there's so many options for you. So I have 3 dishes to run through today.
Okay.
And so basically this first dish is the heirloom tomato salad. Now, most people put mozzarella with that, so if you want to cut the calories, take the mozzarella off. I would say, if you don't worry about that, put the mozzarella on. Other than that, just cut the tomatoes however you like. I cut them obscure. And then here's some basil leaves. Roll them up like this. This is called chiffonade, a basil. And just cut it julienne like this. Little thin strips.
Okay.
And we'll stop there because it's enough for the dish, so you can see the difference. Okay, and then we'll just sprinkle that right on top like this. Adds fresh essence, a little licorice flavor.
Nice.
Then we have some extra virgin olive oil. This is the Skyhawk olive oil infused with basil.
Okay.
And then a little black pepper like this. Nice accent. I didn't add salt because when you use heirloom varietals or anything that's organic and natural, okay, that you're going to have flavor already. You don't have to worry about any adding salt because the natural flavors of the
So what are we topping it with there, Russell?
That was a balsamic reduction.
Okay.
Balsamic, no sodium. Olive oil, no sodium.
Beautiful.
And this is, like you see up front there, 200 calories on this dish and 10 milligrams of sodium. That's healthy.
That's healthy.
So next one here, we've got a chicken breast grilled on the Barbie in the backyard. And then you got purple proven potatoes. We just put olive oil, again, no sodium.
Sure.
Salt, and no salt, but pepper. And then roast those off in the oven. Then heirloom cherry tomatoes on top. And here we have, gang, a charred tomato vinaigrette. This is actually on one of our dishes in the restaurant. And it just adds a little bit extra accent of flavor. Look at that. And then, so this is, and then if you look over here to your right on that camera, 492 calories, 466 milligrams of sodium. So,
Russell, and everything you make is so colorful. You have so much color in your presentation.
Well, we eat with our eyes first, right?
You're right.
So if it looks good, it's gotta taste good.
Gotta taste good.
So,
okay.
Just like Morgan's. Okay. So now the last one, we have jasmine rice. Jasmine rice is a healthier rice as opposed to a regular white rice.
Okay.
Also, the California varietals are really good for you.
Nice.
So here we have our jasmine rice, fresh scallions. Just going to toss those together like this. We're going to put that on the plate. And don't worry about presentation.
30 seconds, Russell.
Oh, that's plenty of time.
Okay.
My gosh, I could talk longer now. And so then we have braising greens, organic braising greens, garlic, shallots, pepper, no salt. We're going to put that right on the plate there.
Beautiful.
And then we have our halibut.
Oh, look at
pan-seared olive oil again, no sodium. And right on top of that, rice and greens. And then fresh papaya. And red pepper, red onions, cilantro, a little bit of lime juice. All these ingredients right down here. We're going to put that right on top.
Oh, look at that.
And look at that delicious dish. And that's, you can make this at home. None of these are on our menu except for the heirloom tomato salad, just to let you know. And this is 435 calories, 257 milligrams of sodium. Now,
Chef Russell, we got to go. What do you got quickly?
Fast food cheeseburgers, that's what you're eating if you eat that.
Oh!
That's why it's in red. Stop eating that.
Stop doing that. Chef Russell says don't do it. Eat healthy. Sabrina, looking so good.
It does look good. Not looking good. Our big board, if we can check that, and lots of red there too. Down 370 points. We are at 10,869.
All right, recapping our top stories.
Investigators have now ruled what was thought to be a suspicious death as a suicide. Now, we don't normally cover suicides, but the circumstances surrounding this case were unusual. Homicide investigators were on scene where the body was found in an East Sacramento backyard all morning.
It's been another rocky day on Wall Street. The Dow down over 400 points today. As you can see, we're at 332. We've lost that at 10,907, Darren.
Let's keep it a theme. The temperatures are going to be dropping, too. But that's actually good news. We'll go down to the low 90s by early next week, and we might even be able to get an 89 in there come Tuesday. We've gotten used to the 80s by now, though, haven't we, guys?
Don't forget, we're always on Fox40.com for your latest news, weather, and sports. Have a terrific day.